Pat P, I'm sure you're aware of this along with our listeners and viewers. Vincent Jackson passed away at the early age of 38. Now, this happened over a week ago. And upon, me and Pat releasing All Things Covered the episode from last week, the news just broke. We didn't have enough information, so we didn't want to talk about it, but we definitely want to hit on that a tragedy from a week ago in Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson was selected one spot ahead of me. I was 62nd in the NFL draft in 2005. He was 61st. My first interaction with Vincent Jackson in between the lines happened in the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. And he played on the opposing team. So I didn't see him until game day Saturday. So Pat P, it was funny because I was aware of all the big name wide receivers. I was aware of all the big name secondary players that were a part of the opposing team. I didn't know anything about Vincent Jackson, did not know anything about him. And I remember the first time he lined up on my side, I thought he was a tight end that they flexed out wide. So I went through the media guide in the locker room, but I didn't really dissect the media guide. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I know they had Mark Clayton and some other,
Yeah, that was another big board too.
Yeah, big name players. But, Vincent Jackson about 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, I know.
So when he came to my
I'm
side,
Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd. You talking about Floyd, but he probably was bigger than Floyd. But I think he had war number 1. So I'm like, who is this big tight end coming up to my side? Think he gonna route me up. So me personally, I'm approaching him like he a tight end. And Pat P, anytime you got a tight end flex out wide, you kind of like, man, listen, man, you're not about to get anything, right? So I'm like, man, this tight end not about to. He's not getting anything on me, man. This man came off and threatened my cushion within his first 4 steps and got up on my toes. I said, oh. So I said, man, I'm like, hey, what position you play? I said, bro, I play wide out. So we came back to the sidelines. Hey, man, have y'all covered number 1? And you know how it is, Pat. Sometimes when you covering a guy who was a little faster, a little better than what you thought he was, you ask the other guys on the sideline, like, hey, have y'all covered such and such? I said, man, y'all covered number 1, the big dude, man, 6'4". He's like, yeah, boy, he got something. I said, who is this dude? Where this foreigner from? He's like, man, I don't know, man. He from a small school. So the next time he came out, man, he tried to hit me with a post corner. I'm like, man, this dude can move. I'm instantly called my boy Travis Johnson. I said, bro, I don't know who this light-skinned dude is from Northern Colorado, but boy, he's a straight beast. It was like he was Megatron before Megatron. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But long story short, man, the tragedy happened, man. He passed at the early age of 38. And this has been a reoccurring trend, for NFL players, to say the least, Pat P. And the thing that I would like to highlight, when NFL players pass early or they take their lives early, the first thing that surfaces is CTE. You know what I mean? And the family said he may have suffered from chronic alcoholism. And they also donated his brain for CTE research. But one thing I would like to make known for our listeners and the viewers is that I would love for the NFL to get more involved in the lives of retired players. And Pat P, you haven't reached that level yet, but there are a lot of players that when they leave the game, financially, they're good. I mean, their pockets are fat. Every account they have is fat, but internally, they're not good. Some players create a substance abuse. They involved in some type of substance where they're abusing that substance. Some players mentally go through things internally where they become abusive to the people that surrounding them. And we don't know until the tail end. You know what I mean? Right. Until the tragedy actually happened. And I had a conversation with my good buddy again, Travis Johnson. Second time his name has made the show. He's famous now. But we were talking about this because he played with Vincent out in San Diego with the Chargers. And we were like, man, the NFL should come up with a platform or some type of program, an obligation. When you retire, Pat P, for you to be able to apply to be able to receive your pension or your retirement plan whenever that time comes, you have to fulfill this medical protocol, the mental protocol and the physical protocol, because there are a lot of players that deal with so much trauma internally when they're done from the game and nobody knows about it. You know what I mean? And like I said, you're still young in your career. You're only 30 years old. You're still going to play another 5-6 years. But we keep seeing too many players who are rich. And I know to the world, when you are rich, you're supposed to be good. Everything's supposed to be good. It doesn't work that way if you don't have internal happiness. You know what I mean? So, hearing that news, what was the first thing that came to your mind hearing the news about Vincent Jackson?
Man, I was shocked, and when they said found dead, the first thing, because it would, like you said, it wasn't much information that was put out. I was like, man, I just hope he didn't take his life, Because he was, didn't know much about Vincent, but had the opportunity to play up against him. And I think I played in a Pro Bowl game with him as well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but like you said, just seeing some of the things that he was able to do on the field, was amazing. But like you also said too, you never know what's going on in people's lives. When they leave the locker room, whatever
Mm,
they have going on, when they get home or what they even dealing with. A lot of people deal with things different. Like you said, it may be a substance abuse, maybe a choice of alcohol abuse, whatever it may be. We don't know how people, um, you know, deal with certain things. So I think it's definitely would be a great idea for the league to continue to try to find ways to dive deeper and into trying to make life easier for retired players. So that guys can have someone to lean on when they are done with the game, because I believe they are doing a better job of giving players resources, but I think they have to do a better job of making sure that guys understand where this stuff is, putting it in front of them, holding 2 and 3 seminars a year, and Viva, California, Florida. So guys, it can always be a recurrent conversation. It can
mm-hmm.
always be, it can always be talked about. So, you just have to continue, the league just have to continue finding ways to, put this in front of guys so guys can, feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, too, a lot of guys may be scared to face the fact,
Yeah,
that they that they may have a mental issue,
an
or it may
issue.
have, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's another hurdle that we all as men, as people, and as the league have to do a better job at, as well as facing the facts. So obviously, if someone is scared to face the fact, it's tough to put them in a situation. But I think the more they see it, it's like, all right, it got to be a sign. You know what I mean? It got to be. I think it'll be something that will alert them to build up that enough courage to finally get the help that they need.
Yeah, mental wellness, physical wellness is priceless. There's no price on that. But when you don't have it, you feel lost. And I know I can fill you guys in on a personal battle that I've been dealing with since I retired. With some of the concussions that I sustained through my career has been migraines. And I've been dealing with maybe 4 or 5 migraines weekly for over probably about 4 or 5 years now. And that has been extremely difficult. And I've been able to do my own due diligence, sometimes paying out of my pocket to try to find a resolution for some of these migraines that I'm having. But I haven't been successful in doing so. And basically, upon observations and observation from seeing some of the specialists I've seen, they're basically saying these frequent migraines that I'm having coming from the head trauma of playing a game of football. Now, would I trade it all in and do something totally different? No, because that was my love. But the thing that I would like to emphasize to our listeners and our viewers is that when we sign up for this game, especially with some of the older players, we were not as aware of some of the circumstances that would surface from the game, like how players are aware now. And there used to be a time when you would get put to sleep, they give you some smelling salt, they put you right back out there. Now the protocols are they're very, very different. But I
Mm.
know for me, it's very, very scary when you see a young guy like Vincent Jackson, who to the normal eye, to the worldly eye, had everything you would think a man would want to have. You know what I mean? And he was battling something. And that's the first thing I said earlier when I addressed this situation. If the NFL can come up with some type of protocol, before you can apply for your pension or retirement plan, we're going to have you fulfill these obligations, the mental obligations, the physical obligations, because we want to make sure when you're done with the NFL, you leave the shield, that you're in the best shape possible, mentally and physically, to be able to attack whatever it is you like to attack and not attack yourself or attack someone else. And I think they definitely have the means to do so, because there are a lot of players going through certain things. Me personally, I'm fortunate enough not to resort to any type of substance to try to, cover up the pain. You know what I mean? I just kind of, and like you said, Pat P, you said something that was so sincere, so important, and so true. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for help because we've been taught to be warriors. We've been
Right.
taught to play the game when we're injured and hurt. And we've been taught to live the same type of way we did when we played the game of football. You know what I mean?
Right.
On the field. So for us, we never were taught to show any sign of being vulnerable. Because if you show vulnerability, that means you're weak.
Right.
And that's what we were taught as players. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there are a lot of guys that are they want help, but they're not going to ask for help because that's not who we are as football players. You know what I mean? Right. So it's sad to see, but hopefully we won't see these things continue to happen to players that are extremely young. Death is already hard to accept when old people die. You know what I mean? Who are dealing with natural health issues. But just imagine when people are young and they die, and that's very, very difficult. So hopefully the NFL can come up with some type of means to be able to prevent these things from happening.